after 4,000 classes. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Ramuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mishnapad Paramahansa Parujaka Ashtotar to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujaka Ashtotar to the Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavina Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All right. Let me put this over here. Right. Okay. So just in case you don't know, we're going to have a little special recording starting about 5 minutes to 8, which will record some of my poems. This is an ongoing project conceived by Jugal Kishore Prabhu, and we'll see how it goes. But for now, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I think we did 14. The 5 factors. Yeah, so we're on 15 today, yeah. Okay, we'll be at the bottom of page 670. 670. Okay. On this 21st day of June, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 18, conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. Text 15 at the bottom of 670. Shadiravan Manobiryat Karma Pradabate Naraha Nyayam Va Viparitam Va Panchayate Tasya Hetavaha. Okay. Shadiravan Manobiryat Karma Pradabate Naraha Nyayam va vipaditam va panchayate tasya hetavaha Shadiravan manobhiryat karma prarabhate naraha Nyayam va vipaditam va panchayate tasya hetavaha. Ishtadev, go ahead. Shariravan manobhiryat karma prarabhate naraha nyayam va vipaditam va panchayate tasya hetavaha. Anyone else on this side of the room want to try? Okay. Go ahead, Brajamanu. Shariravan manobhiryat karma prarabhate naraha nyayam va vipaditam va panchayate tasya hetavaha Shariravan manobhiryat karma prarabhate naraha Nyayam va vipaditam va panchayate tasya hetavaha. Okay, word by word. Sharira, by the body, vak, speech, manobhihi, and mind, yat, which, karma, work, prarabhate, begins, naraha, a person, nyayam, right, va, or vipaditam, the opposite, va, or pancha, 5, ete, all these, tasya, its, hetavaha, causes. Whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. Purport. The words right and wrong are very significant in this verse. Right work is work done in terms of the prescribed directions in the scriptures, and wrong work is work done against the principles of the scriptural injunctions. But whatever is done requires these 5 factors for its complete performance. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unminitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So let's just review what are those 5 elements of factors of action. Text 14, the place of action, the body, the performer, that's the soul, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul. These are the 5 factors of action. Now one may ask, well, why would the supersoul be involved in wrong action? Action that is, right and wrong. Well, because the supersoul tries to give us good instruction so that we'll act rightly, but we don't want to hear him. We're not listening. And we're getting all kinds of information from outside, from different sources, and from our own mind that is telling us to do so many things due to conditioning. So the Supersoul allows us to do these things, do these wrong actions, say what we call sinful actions, that are ultimately self-defeating, because it doesn't interfere with our minute independence. The need to have that minute independence, the origin of that need is in the spiritual world. We're emanated by Krishna. We're as eternal as he is, but we exist as emanations because he wants to enjoy. There's a little phrase from the Upanishads that's very telling called Raso Vai Saha. Raso Vai Saha, which means that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is himself rasa. Or in other words, this is how he enjoys. I mean, by all of these relationships he has with his loving friends and the gopis, his parents, the cows, the land, everything which is alive. I mean, everything is alive there. And so that's what he lives for. But it all depends on these elements having free will, having an element of free will. Because otherwise there's no meaning to the word love. And so all the living beings in the spiritual world are freely giving their service to Krishna out of affection, out of love, and they're living on that basis. So that means that they're also free to withhold it, and that's where we come in. That's where we decided to do that, and ever since we've been mucking around in this material world, trying to enjoy, trying to control, and performing a lot of wrong action, and losing our privileges as human beings and up and down in different universes like that. But Krishna doesn't leave us condemned in this world, but he's always present somehow, either personally, which is rare, but he comes periodically, as his representatives, great devotees, acharyas, spiritual masters, realized souls, and as his books, as his words. They're not always printed books, but the teachings are always present. We're still free, as obviously book distributors know, to ignore it or reject the teaching, and to simply continue in our material way. That's the material conditioning. But Krishna's always concerned, yada yada hi dharmasa glana bhavati bharata, when he sees that adharma, which is always harmful and painful for the living beings, is becoming predominant. He appears in an effort to protect the devotees and to annihilate the miscreants and to reestablish dharma, which is healthy for the souls. So that's what is going on here. But all these actors, or all these elements are important, and all of them are either right or wrong. An action performed requires all of them or some of them. And certainly the Supersoul and the individual soul are essential, and the senses and mind. So that's what's going on, and there's a reaction, either good or bad. Ultimately, there's no really good material reaction. If we're performing materially good work, that just simply means that we're acting in such a way that we can enjoy more in the present or the future, but that just keeps us bound even harder, more firmly to this material world. And that's why it's said that any sense pleasure we have, gross or subtle, and the mind is also sometimes included in the senses. You may remember in chapter 14, Krishna uttered this very key verse, Mamai vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana, manak shashtan indriyani prakatistani karshati. That all the living beings in this world, the living entities, are my parts and parcels. Parts and parcels means that they partake of my qualities in minute degree. Just like a little ray of sunshine has got a little bit of heat, a little bit of light. And the sun has virtually infinite heat and light. So that's our nature eternally. And as Prabhupada puts it in that translation, we're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. And in that same, next chapter, in the early part of the chapter, he describes how we cultivate a certain consciousness, and then the mind carries one, mind, intelligence, and false ego carries one to the next body. So we're creating our destiny with everything we do, with these five senses, with these five elements. And we have free choice. We can say, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I can see that may be temporarily titillating to the senses, but the long-term effects are disastrous. It's impeding my progress back to my original home of an eternal life of bliss and knowledge, if you have faith in that. And therefore, I won't do this, I'm going to do this. And that's where the austerity comes in, the tapasya comes in, is that it's not immediately pleasing to refrain from doing things that we want to do that may titillate the senses, and to do other things that don't necessarily please the senses. But in the long run, that's what it takes in order to purify the mind, body, senses, and everything, and get closer to Krishna. So that's going to come out as this chapter progresses, and it kind of comes to a crescendo at the end there of essential verses that really summarize the whole message of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, shall I go on? Yes, Boo. We have a mic. Where's the mic? Right behind you. Yeah, you got it. Just you had to turn it on by now.
Can you distinguish between free will and the illusion of choice?
Can you expand on that?
For example, you vote for President A or President B, but then you find out that the same agenda is going to happen regardless of who you choose. But people think, okay, well, I have to choose this person, I can choose that person. I go into a store and I have so many different varieties of soda, but it's just, water and sugar variations.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you have free will there to choose Coca-Cola. I don't want to give it a push because it's too late. But this flavor, that flavor, and so forth. So within a certain boundary, you have free will. But whatever you choose, you're going to get the negative aspect of too much sugar or aspartame, whatever it is. In other words, so it's a question of knowledge. Most people, they choose one variety of sense gratification or another, depending on what mode they're in. But they're still within the whole compass. The Prabhupada gave the perfect example with the prisoner. If you're a prisoner in a jail or a prison, you want to get out of the prison. You don't want to simply struggle very hard to become an A-class prisoner rather than a B-class prisoner. Oh, those poor guys, they're in solitary confinement. I'm able to walk the yard twice a day or once a day. In other words, you've lost perspective of what's really your ultimate goal, and that's what people conceive of as free will, is that I'm free to travel here or go there or so forth. But you're still within the boundaries of the conditioned life. You're building a future in which you're going to stay up, suffer like anything, and bound up. So that's where the knowledge comes in. Is that no? We should if you have no knowledge of the real choice that can liberate you entirely, then your free will is bounded within the demarcation of what you know and that you're given. So that's the idea. The Krishna comes, he speaks the Bhagavad Gita, and opens up a whole new vista of what actual freedom can be and what actual happiness can be. And if you're intelligent, you'll forego the immediate pleasure of the senses, which may seem very attractive immediately, for the greater benefit. So that's the idea, All right, let's go on. Text 16. Tatraivam satikartaram atmanam kevalam tudyaha pashyat jakata buddhitvan nasa pashyati durmatihi. All right, give me a second here. Okay. All right, translation. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the 5 factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Purport. A foolish person cannot understand that the Supersoul is sitting as a friend within and conducting his actions. Although the material causes are the place, the worker, the endeavor, and the senses, the final cause is the Supreme, the Personality of Godhead. Therefore, one should see not only the 4 material causes, but the supreme efficient cause as well. One who does not see the Supreme thinks himself to be the doer. So this is the key distinction. There's such an infinite variety of work that's going on, but vast majority of it is in the sphere of material work, fruitive work, either immediate or for some remote material goal, which keeps us bound. And what is that wonderful verse in the first canto, 2nd chapter, where speaking about the supreme Dharma, which is ultimately, of course, pure Krishna consciousness. And it says, Dharma swanastitak pungsam vishwaksena katasayak notpadiye jariratim shrama evahi kevalam. This phrase, shrama evahi kevalam, appears in one variety or another in several places in the Bhagavatam. And it means completely useless labor, a lot of hard labor for nothing. And what is that? If one follows one's dharma within varnashram dharma, which is like a material designation, very nicely, I'm performing my duties as a kshatriya or this or that, But whatever you're doing is not increasing your desire to hear about God, about the ultimate goal, the Supreme Personality of God in all the details, then it's completely useless labor. It's a lot of hard work that's just going to result in you getting another material birth. And if you're not careful, and especially in this age, it's practically impossible to avoid. You perform sinful activities. You may very well lose the human form of life, or be born in such a condition that it's nightmarish, whatever. There's so many conditions like that. So that element in our work in which there's a connection with Krishna. That's the whole idea of Krishna consciousness. You may be doing so many things that looks just like material work, but you're doing it for God. You know, you're giving the bulk of the fruits for the propagation of Krishna consciousness, or the maintenance of the temple, or whatever. And you're remembering Krishna when you're doing it. The work helps you remember Krishna, because that's your motive of working. Then it's auspicious, and when you're, at the end of the day, when you come to class, I want to hear, you want to hear about Krishna more and more. Your desire to hear about Krishna increases, because that's the central factor of your life. And Krishna is all attractive. So Prabhupada said, this Krishna book, if someone reads it, you can go back to Godhead. Because it seems like nice stories, but it's about Krishna, it's about God. So that's an important measure. That whole section, beginning in the 6th verse of the 2nd chapter, and culminating in the 21st verse, which is like 16 verses, I believe, is a complete lesson in and of itself. It begins with practicing the Supreme Dharma, which is pure bhakti, ahoitukiya pradayata, unmotivated, no material motivation, and uninterrupted. Of course, that's it's a big qualification, but that's what we aim for. And the end of it is that your chains of bondage to this world are destroyed, your doubts about the existence of God and your relationship is destroyed, and your karma is destroyed. And what isn't destroyed is your attraction for the Lord, and He appears in the heart. You see Him personally. He has a revelation, which is a very advanced state. So it all starts with hearing, and the last 4 or 5 verses are all about that. Shinvatam Sukata Krishna Punyashavanakirtana. When Krishna, in their heart, remember that's the 5th element here, the Supersoul, when he understands that they're sincerely hearing about me from the proper source, then he cleanses the heart of abhadras, just like Cheto Darpana Marjanam. All of these latent desires we've cultivated, and the lust, anger, and greed, illusion, whatever. That's cleansed away, and you become fixed, and then you become more faithful, and you become more advanced, and eventually even prasanna manaso, you're naturally joyful, which is our natural state. Hard to believe, but we're supposed to be always happy, in Krishna consciousness. And then it goes on, the last verse in the series, and you actually get a vision of the Lord in the heart. All starts with hearing from the proper source. So we want to cultivate that. That's nice. See you. I've been in the classes more and more. That's good. Yeah.
I'll forget this. Forget the name. I was thinking of maybe Monday night or last night, and anyway, the point is, I remember way back in college, I don't know when, stumbling on the personality and the writings of Baruch Benedict de Spinoza, who is, he's not probably well known today. You can find his books somewhere, I guess, on Amazon.
Is that the famous Spinoza, the philosopher?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and he was part of the community of the Jewish community in Amsterdam, and even they couldn't make sense of what he was saying. And what I remember, and it just dawned on me the other day, this ties in nicely. He saw how did he put it? Imagine our existence were like a sponge in the ocean. We're a living entity, and every pore is penetrated by this salt water. We're immersed in it, like every cell. So the Supersoul, this consciousness is everywhere. Mm-hmm. But it didn't make sense to the community he lived in. Certainly didn't make a sense to the Christian community. They couldn't see it for anything. And he had trouble basically getting anyone to listen to him, I guess. Uh-huh. But I think there's a connection there. He was very visionary.
I'd have to look into it more. I haven't really studied his philosophy.
Yeah, I almost wanted to get a book one day and from Amazon and read about it.
There's various aspects to the insights in some of these philosophers. Probably love to recite Socrates.
Yeah,
Remember
okay.
Socrates, that he knew he wasn't the body. And all he did, of course they arrested him and they eventually executed him. And when they told him, he said, "You can try, but you'll have to catch me first." And he, I'm like, that's cool.
He drank it. Yeah, he's okay.
Because, he knew that he was a spirit soul, and Prabhupada really appreciated that. And they were getting, this stuff coming over from India, Greece. There's a lot of... Did you know that Tulsi plant is a variety of mulberry? Now we go around the mulberry bush. Now we go,
I thought it was basil, basil family.
Oh, well, anyway, there's
But
a
it's
relationship
related
there.
to mulberry.
Yeah, there's a relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it was Judah Karma and maybe Sariputta. They did a study of a lot of the things that are reflections in Western culture,
You can
religious
see there's
culture.
a connection.
You can see the connection.
Here we go around the mulberry bush. That's a good one. That's exactly what. Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's go on. So we shouldn't think ourselves the only doer. We should always remember the Supersoul and find out what he wants us to do. Text 17. Yasya naham kuto bhavo buddhir yasya nalipyate hatvapi sahimalokan nahanti nanabadyate. One who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled, though he kills men in this world, does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. Purport. In this verse, the Lord informs Arjuna that his desire not to fight arises from false ego. Arjuna thought himself to be the doer of action, but he did not consider the supreme sanction within and without. If one does not know that a super sanction is there, why should he act? But one who knows the instruments of work, himself as the worker, and the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Sanctioner, is perfect in doing everything. Such a person is never in illusion. Personal activity and responsibility arise from false ego and godlessness, or a lack of Krishna consciousness. Anyone who's acting in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the Supersoul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though killing does not kill, nor is he ever affected by the reaction of such killing. When a soldier kills under the command of a superior officer, he is not subject to being judged. But if a soldier kills on his own personal account, then he is certainly judged by a court of law. Now, you don't have to study that much history to see how much this was misused. The Crusades and so many religious wars. My God. But in this particular instance, we find Christians there on the chariot, and this whole war was a culmination of kind of his arrangement to decrease the fever of a lot of demons who had taken over the earth. When you study. There's Jarasan and Kamsa in the early, days, and this whole attempt to take over that Duryodhana was masterminding under Dhritarashtra's tolerance, more or less, was not what Krishna wanted. Yudhishthira was a saintly devotee, and he did rule for a while before and they were ruling, and then it was stolen by the cheating. Dice game, if you study the Mahabharata. So, in this case, we'll find that all the killing that Arjuna did was not sinful, although he thought so at first. That's the whole idea. It looked to be, well, I'm going to be responsible for the death of all these men, and look who I'm going to be killing. My Bhishma Dev, who's a Mahajan, a great soul, and my teacher, and all his friends on the other side. And then he had, these other reasons that all the women will become widows, will become unprotected, the world will be filled with Varna Sankara, So no, it's not a good idea, from that point. The thing is, he was spinning out that argument because he really didn't want to do it. He didn't, gut reaction. He didn't want to kill his friends and relatives on the other side, That was so painful to him. But he knew that it was wrong. He knew that Krishna wanted him to fight. So he's kind of in this paralyzed position. So he says, Karpanya dosha pahata svabhava, that by this miserly weakness, I've stolen away my actual nature. upahata swabhava, my nature as a fighter. That was, And so I'm approaching you now, not as a friend, but as a shishya, as a disciple. Please instruct me. And it's a whole different relationship. So Krishna is now going to speak as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his first statement is to chastise his disciple. You're speaking so-called learned words, but you're not the pundit, You're lamenting for the body, which is not the self, and that whole lesson of the second chapter. So that's where Krishna, steps in. He's always willing to instruct us, and he's doing so through the Bhagavad Gita and through his acharyas and sometimes personally. But we need to be receptive to that lesson, to that, and it oftentimes is a big upheaval in your life, because it changes what you are expected to think of as important and what you should strive for and what you should jettison, because it's like a ball and chain keeping you going from really advancing. Okay, I think we're going to end now and have our little recording session, since this is the first one. And I'm sorry if it's caught you by surprise, but at the request of my friend Jugal Kishore, we're going to record some of my poetry, and that's a special Wednesday event. If it's not, you can not come on Wednesday if you want. But anyway, or some of you can come on Wednesday if you want. All right, so let me set this up first. Yes, here we are. Now this may be a little rough at first because I haven't. Okay, this is not the most ideal thing. I have another iPad, but unfortunately it's so old that it won't run the programs that can read the PDFs. Yeah. And it's full. It's too full. Anyway, yeah. But I've got it here. All right. I had planned, and if it doesn't work, we can stop it. But to put a little background, just tambour playing. On your speaker. Yeah, it's pretty far.
Battery 90%.
Yeah.
Connected to Thomas's iPod.
Can't turn that off. All right. Okay, you're coming out of here. Oh, Krishna. So we'll just get a level on this first. No. How about that? Is that okay? All right. All right. So, okay. So we'll begin with, as we always do, Prabhupada Pranams. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Hiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine. Om. I bow to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose mission is to teach the art of purely serving God. To Krishna no one on this earth can be more dear than he, for at Shri Krishna's lotus feet he dwells eternally. Obeisances to you, O prime disciple of your Lord, Sri Saraswati Thakur, wielder of the preaching sword. By preaching Lord Chaitanya's words, you've saved the Western lands from voidism, impersonalist creeds, and all such shams. Next is an 8-verse poem written originally in Sanskrit by Krishna Dravida Dasa and published in 78, I think, in the Vyasa Puja. So I'm just going to read one of the Sanskrit verses and the rest in English. Shri Srinavadvipa Parapadipa Sandipyamana Satato Bhuviha Chetasta Mohanti Yasya Yatnan Namamitam Shri Prabhupada Devam. The transcendental lamp of Navadvip, Gauranga Dev, he took with great endeavor around the world some souls to save, who long had dwelt in darkness, never chanting Krishna's name. To Srila Prabhupada I bow, his glories I proclaim. The sacred treasure left by Vyas and other learned saints, he rendered into English free of speculation's taints, and thus he mercifully fulfilled Sri Saraswati's aim. To Srila Prabhupada I bow, his glories I proclaim. The brilliant sun of Lord Govinda's form is shining bright throughout this world because of his sharp logic, awesome might. That sun makes all the Mayavadi glowworms hide in shame. To Srila Prabhupada I bow, his glories I proclaim. The pristine Ganges of the Bhagavad flows everywhere. Because of his great effort in that stream, the sages' prayers are gems and Krishna's pastimes are swans sporting unrestrained. To Srila Prabhupada I bow, his glories I proclaim. Ensuring that his mission's victory would be complete, he planted Shri Shri Radha Krishna's charming lotus feet in temples by the dozen and in countless hearts unchained. To Srila Prabhupada I bow, his glories I proclaim. The fierce and formidable army led by wicked Kali is being slain by arrow showers, volley upon volley. Those arrows are his all-auspicious books of spotless fame. To Srila Prabhupada I bow, his glories I proclaim. The Hare Krishna movement's a desire tree whose fruits are all the splendid ways Lord Gaura's army wins recruits. To plant that tree upon the earth, from Krishna's realm he came. To Srila Prabhupada I bow, his glories I proclaim. An ocean of compassion he has taken shelter of, Sri Nanda's son with all his being in everlasting love. He lives on by his words, whose followers with him remain. To Srila Prabhupada I bow, his glories I proclaim. I pray that those who hear this hymn, which shines the brilliant light of Srila Prabhupada's renown in Kali Yuga's night, will soon attain firm faith in his instructions, so that they may one day join him in Golok and there with Krishna stay. Hare Krishna. Now the next is entitled the Srila Prabhupada Kripashtaka, 8 verses meditating on Srila Prabhupada's mercy, which is offered first on Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day in 1997 in Vrindavan. I was there for that. Very fortunate. Now it's inspired by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Guruvashtaka, which is sung in every Mangalarti. So you'll see the inspiration of the 8 verses here. Trapped within samsara's all-devouring blazing fire, we had no hope of rescue till your Guru's strong desire inspired and empowered you to boldly cross the sea and teach the truth of bhakti so some souls would be set free. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Patiently you taught us how to chant the holy name, and how to dance, and how to sing, and what was life's true aim. And thus you gave us Lord Chaitanya's teachings unalloyed, and saved us from the all-devouring Mayavadi void. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. When Krishna Bhakti spread, and you had centers here and there, you introduced the worship of the deities so fair. And soon throughout the world your lordship smiled upon your crew, and nourished strong devotion to themselves and unto you. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Prasadam was your special weapon. No one could resist. Once the Sunday feast had started, no one could desist. Halva, sweet rice, crisp pakoras, sabjis, puris, rice. With these and other preps, you did our tongues and hearts entice. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. The books you showered down upon the masses and on us taught Scripture's sacred essence, bhakti pure and nectarous. And while you wrote to relish Sri Sri Radha Krishna's name and form and pastimes, qualities, and everlasting fame. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. While managing your ISKCON with the whole world as your stage, meeting, preaching, traveling like a person half your age, you serve their lordship Sri Sri Radha Krishna in your heart, arranging for their pastimes in Vrindavan's secret part. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. The Guru is as good as God, you said, and some were shocked. But you had simply quoted scripture you did not concoct. And sure enough, for those who worship you as they would God, the path of bhakti opens wide and joyfully is trod. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. If you bestow your mercy, then Shri Krishna gives his too. But if your mercy is lacking, then there's nothing we can do. So every day we should reflect upon your life sublime and vow to serve you always with our body, words, and mind. O Prabhupada, your mercy is my only treasure now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. I pray that my small hymn, though lacking literary worth, presented to remind us of your pastimes on this earth, may find some favor both with you and with your devotees, who hover around your lovely lotus feet like maddened bees. O Prabhupada, I pray that you bestow your mercy now. Unto your soothing lotus feet I bow. Okay. Now the next one, I presented one year on a Vyasa Puja day, but then I tweaked it a little bit so it's appropriate for every day. It's called the Paean to Srila Prabhupada, which is a song of praise. O Prabhupada, we hail the day when you appear just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright to give this blind world back its sight. We thank you from the bottom of our heart and pray with deepest love that we may serve your lotus feet in every circumstance we meet. As years go by and books go out, we see what life is all about, to serve your mission and our Lord's by spreading wide your sacred words. As well you want us all to strive to let those words direct our lives. This safest path will lead us home, no more in Maya's realm to roam. And now, we have the Sri Nityananda Ashtaka. This is 8 verses, Sanskrit verses, written by Vrindavan Das Thakur in glorification of Lord Nityananda. So I'll just do the first verse in Sanskrit and English, and the rest just the English. Sarat Chandra Brantim Spudadamalakandhim Gajakatim Hare Premon Mattam Jita Padamasattvam Smitamukam Sada Gurnan Netram Kalakalita Vetram Kalibadham Bhaje Nityanandam Bhajanatadukandam Niravadhi. Beside the splendor of his golden form and smiling face, the splendor of the autumn moon appears most commonplace, because he's mad with love of God, though he's God in disguise. He walks just like a drunken elephant and rolls his eyes. The cowherd's rod he carries is his weapon to destroy whatever ills and evils wicked Kali can deploy. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Unequaled in his love for Krishna, he's a vast abode of transcendental mellows only God has ever showed. For all his devotees he's everything, and for his wives, Shri Vasudha and Janava, he is their very lives. Since love for Krishna makes him mad, his actions may seem odd, and so the foolish fail to see that he himself is God. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Most dear to Sachi's son, he is a reservoir of bliss. Throughout the universe he's worshipped with great happiness. Impelled by deep compassion when he sees the state therein, he saves the people sinking fast in Kali's sea of sin, by teaching them to chant the holy name with every breath, thus crushing the conceit of Durga's sea of birth and death. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Now he's speaking to Lord Chaitanya, and he said, "Oh brother, Kali's now ascendant everywhere, increasing people's suffering. It's more than I can bear. Please give these fallen souls an easy process to attain, the shelter of your lotus feet, the place beyond all pain. Instruct them all to chant Shri Krishna's name." The Lord replied, "To worship him with love, and by his teachings to abide. Oh friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree." So now Lord Chaitanya is going everywhere in Bengal and he's preaching. "Oh brother, kindly chant Shri Krishna's name incessantly, and also teach this process to your friends and family. Thus cross the sea of birth and death and be supremely blessed. Your liberation is the only alms that I request. Entreating thus to save the people from illusion thrall, with arms upraised he went to every home throughout Bengal. Oh friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. A new Agastya Muni, with great force he drinks the sea of birth and death. How loving and compassionate is he! For all his devotees he is the best of rising moons, expanding wide the ocean full of transcendental boons. And for the many demons filling people's hearts with dread, he is the sun dispelling all the darkness that they spread. Oh friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. He wandered every path in Bengal, chanting Haribol, his dancing and his singing bringing joy to every soul. He put aside his own concerns to spread the holy name, thus mercifully fulfilling Sri Chaitanya's preaching aim. On seeing saintly devotees he felt great happiness, and with his mercy-laden glance he filled their hearts with bliss. Oh friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. He gently took his brother's soft and graceful lotus hand, and as he looked upon his face, he felt his bliss expand. Chaitanya felt the same way as he looked upon the face of Nityananda, and he held him in a firm embrace. And then they started dancing through the streets of all the towns, their beauty filling every heart with joy that knew no bounds. Oh friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. For Nityananda's devotees who relish mellow sweet, this poem is a precious nectar reservoir replete with endless waves and whirlpools of the sweetest, deepest love, beyond what even gods and goddesses are dreaming of. It has the power to deliver any fallen soul and place him at Sri Nityananda's feet, our final goal. May those who hear this May those who hear these transcendental verses I impart forever see his lovely lotus feet within their heart. Oh friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Okay, so that's all we have time for tonight. We'll resume next Wednesday with the third Chaitanyastika from the Stabamala. Hare Krishna. Sorry for any wrinkles, but what I should do is memorize all these, and I don't have to read. But
So we can have like a thing there, and you can.
Yeah, we could have. Yeah. Set it up. I think it'll be on YouTube eventually, right? Yeah, it'll definitely be on YouTube. And don't forget, Tapas is filming all this now, so it'll immediately be on YouTube.
It's going live anyways, right now.
It's going live, yeah. So there it is.